What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. It's our Wednesday night edition, and I'm really glad you're with us. It's an important show. Of course, we are approaching June, which is Gay Pride Month. But one of our dear friends, a longtime part of our show, is Erica K. Webster, and you're going to be meeting her and seeing a lot of her tonight. And she and I have designed, and really pretty much her, she invited all the people you're going to see tonight as we come together to celebrate and honor our friends that are part of the LGBTQ community. And it's a community that has so many people that we love, including, I know many of our audience members are part of that community. And it's a community that we embrace with absolute love and care. And recognize that that's a community that sadly is under attack right now from very strong forces. So we want to learn more about what's happening and what we can do to support our brothers and sisters. And to get us started, I am so grateful, especially for tonight's show. One of our absolute favorite luminaries, Reverend Becky Suzik, is with us. And so I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Becky to start us off with a prayer.
Blessings, peace, and love to everyone who's watching us on the live stream and who's joining us in the Zoom room. We're so grateful for this opportunity to celebrate our LGBTQIA plus friends, these moments here together. I invite you, if you have a candle nearby or an electric candle, or even if you don't have one, if you want to turn on a light switch and just hold the light with us. I'm going to raise a candle right now and we'll light it together. And I'm going to share opening prayer together. Mm. 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 Together, let us intend, let us bless, let us pray, let us presence, whatever word feels good with and for you right now. This time together is sacred. We are so grateful for these moments that we share in Zoom, where we get to listen and learn and open our hearts and our minds into a unity, into an affirmative and a beautiful space that celebrates the diversity of us. Great Spirit, great Mother, great Father, great mystery. We are so grateful for this opportunity. We're grateful for our ancestors who go before us and who support us still in these moments when we hold so many questions and sometimes we are walking in fear, yet somehow we find the courage within community, within ourselves, to keep stepping forward towards building the world that we believe is possible, a world that truly, deeply cares for each other and celebrates the diversity, this beautiful spectrum of humanity that we are. Great Spirit, Mother, Father, God, Goddess, great mystery. We are so grateful. We take a deep breath in and we exhale together, breathing in, exhaling love, and 1/3 time, breathing in, and exhaling love.
When you think that all is lost and the curtain looks to fall, perhaps it's just the song of hope that calls, and your trust in life exposed. No need to sit around and mope. Where there is love, there's always hope. Trust in your life and you will see that you reflect as me. Another day is here for you to live. Your heart is pure and true, so I came to remind you. No need to sit around and mope. Where there is love, there's always hope. Trust in your life and you will see that you reflect as me. Trust in your life and trust in me. Dust yourself down and I'll lift you up. I will fill your loving cup. Just when you thought that all was lost, I came to sit around and mope. Where there is love, there's always hope. Trust in your life and you will see that you reflect as me.
Let's all twinkle, beloved Omashar. For those of you new, we twinkle on the awakening world. That's how we show our appreciation. And Omashar is our house musical artist. He makes all things happen. He will be with us for 2 more songs tonight.
Yes, and I had to use a digital candle because the wax was getting all over my keyboard. So thank you.
Hey, whatever it takes. And thank you so much, Reverend Becky, for getting us off to that wonderful start. We're going to hear more from Becky a little bit later on in the show. But I want to introduce an extraordinary woman. This is Erica K. Webster. And what an amazing life this woman has led. She has truly been at the forefront. She is a historical and prominent LGBTQ rights activist and advocate. She's the CEO and president of A Most Perfect Love Foundation. Let's just think about that, those words right off the bat. A Most Perfect Love Foundation. And she goes all the way back to the 1969 Stonewall Rebellion. She was there. She has dedicated her life to human rights advocacy, becoming a leading voice for transgender rights. She's been the featured speaker at all sorts of local and national community events. She's also an ordained non-sectarian minister. I think half of our presenters tonight are ministers and reverends. And she goes on and on and on with all the awards that she's received. She is truly a legend in the field. And I'm so honored that she's actually a regular viewer on our, and she asked me to go to Gallery View, so I'm going to Gallery View. She's been a regular on Coming to the Awakening World on and off for going all the way back to when we were Saturday Night Live. So Erica, thank you so much for putting this show together at this very important time in history. And I'm turning it over to you to share what you would like for our audience to know.
Thank you, Scott. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you. I am weeks away from my 75th year. And tonight I bring a special gift of memories. I'm going to leave the advocacy work to Lucas and Andre and Christian and Heather, because Spirit, the inner being within me, said it's time to share these memories. I totally recall life before this life. I have total recall on passing from the previous life. And I have total recall of the time I spent with the ancient ones prior to this incarnation. And these memories are a gift that I came to this world to bring. And it is a message of love and how we can, through the power of love, heal so much that is wrong within our world. For many years, I used the word fight because you can get all the information you want on me through the internet. My email address is in the chat at the foundation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But what's important tonight are these messages. I was not frightened or afraid. And I was within a presence that all I can say was energy of acceptance and perfect peace. I knew I should not have died early. And I was in a queer relationship and Cherokee in my previous life. I had a lover that was a man. And I took a bullet to save his life. And I knew I had to come back. I was just compelled that I had to come back. And when I entered this incredible energy, this area, To my left, I saw a sea of beings in a deep meditative sleeping state. And I looked because there was a guide that came to greet me, a being. And I said, I don't belong here. And he said, I know. Follow me. And I did. And it took a while as we walked together. And I saw many things to my left and to my right. And suddenly I turned, and the ancient ones began to appear, one by one, until it became a circle of 13 ancient beings that greeted me. And I remember asking questions. I'm a question person. I question everything. Been doing that in this lifetime since I've been here as well. And I asked them, why do I see and feel so different? And anger that didn't make sense to me. And they began to explain to me how religion had destroyed so much. When the great masters came to teach, the messages they brought had been twisted to gain power and control. Greed had taken over. I'm sure most of you are aware that our beginnings here in the United States was about stealing the land, thinking that it was okay to own it. That's part of what I had experienced in my previous life. And for anyone who's ever concerned about leaving your body behind, all I've got to say to that is suddenly I was so light. I didn't have any cares. But I remember saying, I need to go back because the work has not been completed. So many had come and brought the messages of a love that is so perfect. There are no words to describe it. And that's why the name of the foundation and the name of my book contains those words, a most perfect love. And in that love, there is no judgment. There is no condemnation. There is no sickness. There is no illness. There is no fear. There is no greed, no selfishness. Take out everything that we have learned in our human life, and the only thing left standing is that energy that permeates everything. And it's a matter of reconnecting and remembering. And as they shared what my journey would be this time, I had no idea it included being part of the LGBTQ community and the experiences of what it means to be transgender. And I was given a word earlier today, interbeing, living in between the gender norms of male and female. And it was my grandparents. My grandfather was a minister as well. to be with my grandparents. He told my family before my plane landed, you don't ask her any questions. If she wants to talk about this, let her talk about it with an open mind. And I remember spending a Sunday with him while the rest of my family had gone to church. And he said they struggled to find answers. And they knew they had to be there in the Bible somewhere. And that's where they came to be at total peace, that they didn't have a son anymore or a grandson. They had a granddaughter. And it was with such love that he told me this, that spirit, God, whatever name we want to put to source, the energy of creation is neither male nor female. That it is a perfect combination of a balanced energy between the male and the female. And that is our special purpose here in this lifetime right now, to be able to bring that perfect balance of energy. And I am not afraid to honor the male energies in myself, as well as I honor the female energies in myself. And I do it with love and compassion for every experience. And I'm just going to add, and I don't want to take too much time because I really want to give this time to our other presenters. I have been imprisoned because I was trans. I have been beaten because I was trans. I have been arrested so many times for standing up for what's right. Yet at the same time, I've had a life that has been incredible. I've had incredible success, given so many gifts to be able to share. And I'm grateful to be here tonight to do that. I also took my own life at 16 and had a near-death experience that lasted for 12 minutes. And this is all clinically preserved, where I returned to that love energy again, and I was with a guide. I saw the ancient ones in the distance behind listening. And this guide just said to me, it's not your time. You can choose to stay, but this will be what happens if you go back. They told me about my life and about the book and about a young man's life that would be saved from taking his own life. And in 2013, when I was asked to be the international media spokesperson for Compassion Games, our very first journey, my husband is in the room, by the way, as well, David, and my dear, dear, sweet friend, Piper Dellums. I had the privilege to create prayer flags for His Holiness the Dalai Lama to present to him in Louisville, Kentucky for the Festival of Faith. Made 3 sets. One from P Flag, one set from our foundation, and one set was created together with another Stonewall veteran, David Bermudez. And I was asked while there, because we were hosted by the mayor and treated very well and welcomed. I've been the first transgender honored with things that I could never have even begun to imagine when I was a child growing up. When I spoke to a youth group at a Methodist church, the LGBT youth group from Louisville, Kentucky. And that night I met the young man whose life had been influenced. He was preparing for suicide. He was so afraid of being rejected by his family because he had heard the horror stories of rejection and what it's like, and he couldn't take that. And somehow, some way, someone had never met over 1,000 miles away came across my autobiography and read it and read my story of my near-death experience. And he decided to take a risk. And that night, as I was speaking, I was told he was in the room and had texted the executive director and said, "Oh my God, this is my hero." You know what that did when I met this young man after that meeting that night? I bawled like a baby to know just because I lived, a life had been touched in such a way. He is now today a chef. I met his family. That is the greatest gift that could ever have been given to me in this life. Because I had spent so many years, every year, at Transgender Day of Remembrance services, as we had to name the names of all the transgender persons killed that year. This went on year after year, not just in the United States, but around the world. And that is a very hard thing to do, to have to show up to be able to do that. But I did it because you know what? My heart is so filled with love. And that's all I want to be, a living example of a most perfect love. I do not hate. I will not fight this administration other than in the courts, and we are busy doing that. To them, I reach out to them in prayer every day, sending love energy into the universe. I have seen it transform many things. I've seen lives saved because of it. And that is my greatest goal in life, is to just continue to be that love and show up with love in everything we do. And I know it's working for us in Africa, where we work. We have 700 children now, getting closer to 1,000 every day. We have schools. And we're still surviving in spite of the administration ending USAID. Yes, we're having to self-fund, but that's okay. When I leave this world, I'm leaving it a better place than what I found it. I was homeless and on the streets for the first 2 years because of my father's rejection. So I've experienced that, and I've experienced homelessness. But from every one of those experiences, it gave me the strength and determination to go on and make sure I was educated and had a good career that made everything we're doing now possible to do. I take ownership of nothing. And when I say that, I mean, I understand you can't own the earth. She's a sacred place that provides life for us in abundance and in prosperity. and I am grateful to be here and to share my love with you. And now I'm going to introduce Lucas to go next.
Turn your mic on, Lucas.
Okay, now everybody can hear me. All right. Thank you, Erica. That's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. Hi, I'm Lucas Miller. I live in Tumwater, Washington. Um, I also grew up on the East Coast. And in 2003, I moved out here to go to Evergreen State College. That didn't quite work out the way I expected, but here I am. And a couple of years after I moved here, I began my transition from female to male. Um, I've been a queer activist in one context or another since I was in high school. Um, I I came out when I was about 15 um, to my entire school, um, and sort of established myself as a front facing queer, if you will. Um, and since then I've been, I do sometimes get involved in the political sphere of things. I've lobbied various government officials. I was in the National Gay and Lesbian March on Washington in 1987. Um, I saw the unveiling of the Names Project quilt. Um, I grew up and came out in the well. I graduated high school in 1985. I'll let you do the math. But that was a time when what most people knew about the gay community was connected to HIV/AIDS, and that was in some cases all they knew. At that time, transgender people weren't even on the radar. They didn't. Transgender wasn't a word that was well known in public discourse. Some people knew the word transsexual, and they might connect that to someone like Renee Richards or Christine Jorgensen or some, um, mostly high profile trans women. Trans men were pretty much invisible. It didn't seem to occur to anyone that, if there were trans women, there must surely be trans men, right? Um, so yeah, in 2005, I was living in Tumwater and spending most of my time in Olympia, and I was very, very lucky. I found the resources I needed, and I had a supportive family and friends around me who were, you know, willing to support me, in that journey. Um, yeah, these days I'm on the board of PFLAG Olympia. For those who have not heard of PFLAG, we're a national organization. We do support, education, and advocacy for LGBTQ plus folks, their friends, families, and allies. We have about 400 chapters nationwide. I'm on the board of the Olympia chapter, but most cities of any size in the United States will have a PFLAG chapter. So, if you get on their national website, um, pflag.org, you'll find a list of all the chapters in the United States, and you can probably find one close to you. Um, And since the pandemic, some of them are doing hybrid meetings where you can Zoom in. So, we're pretty accessible at this point. Um, uh, let's see what else. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I've been especially these days. I've felt it was very important to be politically engaged and politically involved. And I've found my ways to do that. As a you know person coping with some physical disabilities, it's you know where I can go and what I can do, can be challenging. But fortunately, Olympia is a very politically engaged place, being our state capital. I mean, you would expect that. Um, but yeah,
Lucas, I'll come in for a moment.
days,
Um,
yeah.
and it's great to have you with us. What, for those of us that are not aware of the political impact, like the choices that are currently being made by the new
Right.
administration, is there anything you can share with us about the actual consequences and impact so far, or possible probable impact of the new regime?
Oh yes. Well, I mean, if you've not everybody has had the intestinal fortitude to go through and actually read some of those executive orders put out by the current administration, but they are available at pflag.org, the national website, if you know really want to pour yourself a stiff drink and go down that rabbit hole. Um, but among other things, um, trans people are finding it very hard in many states to change their gender markers on their documents, such as their social security, driver's licenses, birth certificates, and especially passports have become a big issue, since quite a few trans people that I know are actually fleeing the country because they don't feel safe here anymore. Um, very recently, the city of Olympia declared itself a sanctuary city, not only for uh, undocumented immigrants and women seeking reproductive health care, but also for LGBTQ plus people fleeing red states that had, that are trying to put through restrictive laws. Um, if you had told me even just a few years ago that we would be seeing refugees within our own borders, I don't know what I would have said, but you know, none of us, wanted to see this situation happen, and yet it is. Um, among other things, there are bills. I mean, there have been, over 500 bills advanced in, mostly in red states, but a few even in very blue states like Washington, um, trying to deny transgender people, especially transgender youth, to gender affirming health care. Um, trying to bar trans women in particular from athletics. Um, there was a bill advanced but then retracted in Tennessee recently, saying that if a teacher or other adult confirms or respects a minor's choice to use a different name or have a different haircut or otherwise, deviate from the expectations of their assigned gender at birth, they could be, fined very heavily. Um, so that's the kind of draconian stuff we're seeing come out of the current administration. And it's causing a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. PFLAG is holding extra meetings now for people who are, just really needing that extra support.
Yeah.
Um, every group that I know of, and I'm involved with a few that serve the LGBT community. I mean, we're scrambling to find things like employment, housing, and food security for people who are now moving in to Washington State, seeking refuge, uh, from this situation. Um, as
It,
far as what people can do, uh, to to um, to support those efforts, I mean, this Saturday, for example, the Postal Service is doing their annual food drive, where you can donate non-perishable food or cash to food banks.
mhm,
In our case, that's the Thurston County Food Bank.
mhm.
Is going to be vital in providing support for people, who some of whom are just coming into Washington State with nothing but a backpack.
Wow.
You know, um,
I'm going to bring
we're
I'm
trying
going to
to.
bring Erica back on for a moment, and I want to read a couple of
Mhm.
comments that have come in. Um, uh, our beloved friend Heather Elizabeth is with us, and she's pointing out that over 200 anti-LGBTQ plus bills are up in Texas alone. In Texas alone.
Mhm.
So I think
Yeah.
directing people's attention, one place that would be just a great starting place is the main website for the national organization, which is pflag.org. pflag.org. And I think one immediate thing is for everybody become a member and donate, and that way, I think for those of us donating on the national level is very, very important. And then find out what's going on locally in your local areas. And you can find chapters in this website. We've got several other wonderful presenters. We're going to hear from Lucas when we go to our panel. But Erica, I would love for you to introduce Reverend Andre for us, please.
Yes, a new friend who is a Unitarian Universalist minister and just an absolutely lovely person that I had the pleasure to get to and bring together this panel tonight. So everyone, please welcome Reverend Andre.
Thank you, Erica. It's so good to be here. I think I'll start by saying that the reason Eric and I connected is, in addition to being a Unitarian Universalist minister, I take LGBTQ history very seriously. And I'm currently working on a biography of Sylvia Rivera, who was a Stonewall veteran and early trans advocate. And so I was interviewing Erica for that book, and that's what brought us together. And I think one of the things that I'll add along that line to this conversation is a little bit of history, because I think with the current moment happening, and you even hear people in the current administration saying things like, oh, a few years ago, we didn't even know what transgender was, and now this is all new. Being transgender is not new. The word transgender, the word trans, the concepts we use within the LGBTQ community to describe our gender and our sexuality, those things are relatively new. Those things have been evolving, especially since the 60s, since the Stonewall Rebellion that was mentioned in 69. But we've existed throughout all of human history, throughout all cultures. There have been different sexualities and different genders. What's new is the way that society has pushed back on those genders over time. So, for example, Erica mentioned in her comments talking of the founding of this country being the stealing of indigenous land. In addition, what was happening is you had Europeans coming into this land and judging the cultures that they were coming up against. And there was eradication of indigenous people who the Europeans considered gender nonconforming. That's not the word they used, but that's what I'm using. The ways their gender expressed themselves didn't match what the Europeans understood, and so therefore it was destroyed. And this has happened throughout history, and we've still been here. There have been people that don't fit within this binary of there's a male and there's a female, and there's people who have different expressions of sexuality. That has been in existence for a very long time. What happened in 1969 at Stonewall is you had a time where in the late 60s in this country, there was more and more awareness of the oppressions that were happening in this country, the Vietnam War, the more fighting in that, the civil rights movement, the women's movement. And as that's coming up, gay people, lesbian people, bisexual people, trans people started really pushing back. They'd already been doing it a little bit, but really pushing back for their rights. And the night at Stonewall, which turned into 5 nights of riots, was the beginning of a new movement. Now, when it comes specifically to transgender people, I think the thing to understand was since that 1969 and this movement that followed, and the fight for LGBTQ rights, a lot of those fights over the decades since 69 were fighting against things like the AIDS epidemic and for treatment for AIDS, fighting for recognition, and then eventually fighting for marriage equality. And through a lot of that, the trans folks, we were kind of sitting on the bottom of the list of rights. And we had to work really hard over many years to gain rights. We had to work really hard to ensure that we weren't seen as mentally ill individuals, that we could get the health care that we needed, that we could get the respect that we needed, that we could hold down jobs and not be fired, not be dismissed. It's actually relatively new that I can be an ordained minister as a trans person. A few decades ago, there were very few of us that could do that, and those that did had to work really hard to be able to do that. So what's happened is this has been decades of us getting to a point where we had the visibility that suddenly a lot of people saw blossom in the 2010s. So it wasn't that it was new, it's that this was the result of a lot of hard work. And now we're seeing the pushback. And a lot of the things that Lucas was talking about, that pushback, and has made it really, really hard. And I would say that for trans people, how hard the current moment is depends on where you live and what resources you have available to you. I'm relatively privileged and lucky. I'm a white middle class individual who's college educated, have an advanced degree. I transitioned in midlife, so I had tons of resources available to me. For a lot of trans folks, that's not the case. And especially in this environment, as Lucas was talking about, where we're creating this environment where we have these internal refugees. In a lot of the safe blue states, the cost of living is a lot higher than some of the states that some of these folks are fleeing from. So what I'm seeing is individuals and families landing in these places, finding a job, finding housing, connecting with healthcare, connecting with community. All of it is an uphill battle. And some of the things that are really being pushed forward, like trans athletes, trans folks in bathrooms, the rights of students to be openly trans. That's a battle for against us just being ourselves in public. We're not going anywhere. We're here. But that's part of the fight that we have going on right now. A significant part of my work too that I'll add to this conversation is understanding the spiritual dimension of trans lives and what trans people bring to the table. Because I think one of the side effects of everything that's happening right now is we're talking a lot about all the bad things that are happening to trans folks. And we're hearing a lot of demonization of our identities and our experiences. There's a lot of joy in trans lives. There's amazing experiences that I know that I've had and other trans folks have had that people who aren't trans haven't had. Yes, there's struggle in how I've experienced my gender over my lifetime, but also there's a huge beauty to that. And for me, my spirituality says that I live in a world where everything around me has a spark of the divine in it. The divine is shot through in this world and this universe. I'm part of this living world. And my body is really an interface with that divine presence in the world. And so for me, I can't separate my transness from my spirituality. It's part of how I am. And so part of what I bring as a trans person, and I'm particularly a minister, is some gifts of my experience into this world. One example is, as for a lot of us trans folks, we've had to learn to live and survive in liminal spaces between two worlds, right? Between what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman, we're living in this liminal space that's not always as certain and as solid as society deems it. And learning to live and navigate in those spaces of uncertainty and constant change, it takes some spiritual resources. And right now, with so much in the world changing as rapidly as it is, you see it across industries and people's lives with what's happening in our government right now, with all this change. We're all living in a liminal space. And each of us has gifts that we can use to help find our way forward. And part of my argument is that LGBTQ folks have certain experiences that can help us navigate where we are. So I think for me, my message is to understand that this is not a new thing. How people are acting on the existence of trans people is, again, not new, but it's new in its expression that's happening right now. Look out in your community. Try to find out what resources exist locally in your community, like PFLAG. Is there a Pride Center? How can you support them? Are there spiritual resources for LGBTQ folks in your community? What are the LGBTQ organizations in your community doing, and how can you follow them? At a national level, I would also say another organization that's been doing some amazing work is an organization called Pink Haven Coalition. And it's a coalition of a number of different organizations that are working to support those refugees of people who are in states where there's a lot of oppression right now, and either they're trying to move or they're trying to get access to resources. And so that's one of many organizations that are doing some amazing work right now. So I think
I am so I am so grateful for what you shared. Thank you for the history, and thank you for bringing the spiritual element into it and reminding us that as hard as it is, and as hard as it's been, for us not to have pity, not to fall into that trap of pity, for us to have, my teacher taught me that there's apathy on one end of the scale, which is, I don't care. and there's pity or sympathy on the other end of the scale, and that's also not healthy.
Right.
But in the middle is empathy, and empathy is what we find in the heart.
Right.
For us to have empathy for your challenges, but also to appreciate the growth, the courage, and the spiritual evolution that you and members of your community are going through. And I really love that frame. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Beautiful. I pulled up the website she was referencing. This is the first I've heard of it, so thank you. Pink Haven Coalition. So all of you watching out in Facebook and YouTube land, it's just pinkhaven.org. Pinkhaven.org, a collective of organizations and individuals committed to trans liberation and joy. Let's remember that joy, and to growing community defense, mutual aid, and alternative systems of care for gender diverse people. So I know I'm going to join and donate, and I hope that the rest of you will. And thank you for referring us to that. Thank you very much. Erica, I'm going to bring you back up to introduce your friend, Christian. And you need to unmute, Erica.
Okay. I thought I did, but it didn't let me. So thank you, Scott. We have a very special guest tonight, Christian de la Huerta. Someone I am honored to know. I met Christian through Gary Malcolm, who knew of him and his work. He is a gay man of Cuban descent. He is a brilliant writer, an author of 3 books. The last one is coming out in June. He is a TED speaker. And he speaks all over the place. And that's why home is wherever he finds himself tonight. Christian, thank you so much for being here. And please share.
Thank you so much for those beautiful words, Erica. And I'm really honored as well and delighted to be here as part of this conversation. And it's really tragic and sad that so many people in the LGBTQ community struggle with spirituality. We confuse it with religion, and no wonder, given the treatment that we have received at the hands of most religions throughout history and even today. But what is tragic and ironic about that is that before the patriarchal times and cultures and religions, people that we today refer to as LGBTQ were not only spiritually inclined, but were actually honored and respected and revered for the spiritual roles and service that we've played all over the world in all sorts of different cultures. And so 20 years ago, a little bit over 20 years ago, I compiled, synthesized some of those roles in a book titled Coming Out Spiritually. And I'm going to share a little bit about those roles that we have played that, to me, are serving a spiritual function. One of them is the social activist revolutionary. LGBTQ people are agents of change. Like we're all about reform. If you look at a lot of the social movements, whether it's Bayard Rustin in the civil rights movement or Rachel Carson in the environmental movement, we're there. Not always out, but we're definitely there pushing those movements forward. What used to be the original gay district in San Francisco, the Haight-Ashbury, was the birth of the peace movement, the anti-war movement. They coexisted together geographically. One of the other roles that we have always played is we're outsiders. I mean, that's one of the, I know that I'm not the only one here who grew up feeling like that, the pain of feeling different, of thinking that I was the only one. We're living in different times and today where I don't think many LGBT people feel like they're the only one. but I know many of us here did. And there's a lot of pain involved with that, but there's benefits of that too. Being outsiders allows us to have a sense of distance, of perspective. It allows us to see the forest and the trees. And so that's one of the reasons why so many of us have been writers and journalists and observers and reporters on humanity and the human condition. And that's a huge service. So we're always helping society determine what its limits are. And that's a huge service. We serve it as a mirror in which society can see itself. Related to that is the consciousness scout. The role of a scout in a tribe is she or he who goes ahead of the tribe, goes, what's on the other side of the river, through the forest, around the mountain. It's a really valuable role because the scout abandons the safety of the group, places themselves at some risk in order to serve the group. And in terms of consciousness, that's one of the roles that we always have seemed to be played. We're always at those edge of societies, going first, taking risks. We know, music that you hear in the gay clubs become mainstream months later. Same thing with fashion. I'm just kind of kidding about those things, but there is some truth to that. It's that role of discovering new path and seeing what's ahead. Keepers of beauty. I wrote about each of these in the book, and that was the longest period. The contributions that people that we today call LGBTQ have made to the arts and to beauty throughout history it was like pages and pages and pages in the book, starting with Michelangelo and Leonardo and Sappho, the poet, on down. I mean, not half-ass artists, it's like artists of real quality. Who have made very significant contributions. And to me, anybody who's bringing beauty into this world is fulfilling a spiritual function. Caregivers, whenever I've given this presentation to LGBTQ audience, I'll ask how many people identify as caregivers, and at least half, sometimes 3/4 of the room will raise their hand. And that includes, to me, the role of teachers and healers, caregivers of all types, from psychiatrists to massage therapists to flight attendants and all forms of the service industry. And to me, that is also a spiritual role. One of the ones that I resonate with and I find really interesting is the mediator, the in-between people. I think it's the luminosity, what's the word that Reverend Andrew is saying? Yes, that liminal state. So because we are in between the genders and have the qualities of which I think all humans do, but maybe we do it a little bit more overtly than most. In indigenous settings, we were the mediators. So when there was strife between a couple or between the women and the men in the village, we were the ones that facilitated and brought peace back, because we were thought to contain the essence of both, right? We were referred to as two-spirited because we embodied both the masculine and the feminine energies, which connects to, and we also, by the way, were mediators between the realms. So the two-spirit folk, whether they knew all the songs and all the rituals when somebody passed, they knew the songs and the rituals and the ceremonies that were conducted to honor their passing and to facilitate their passing. Connected to that or related to that is also the more direct, overt role of the shaman or the priest or the priestess, sacred functionaries, that a role that we have fulfilled in all religions and all over the world. And that one is doesn't require a lot of explanation. And a really interesting one that I see embodied today by some of our speakers who exemplify that for us is the divine androgyne. And in many religions, that is considered a high state of evolution, where because the sacred, call it God or call it whatever you want to call it, is both male and female and beyond that binary. So in many religions, there's the concept of holy androgyny. So the more evolved that one becomes spiritually, the more that you embody both the masculine and the feminine aspects of the psyche, which also has spiritual significance. And then finally, there's the gatekeepers, which is from a concept from the Dagra tribe in Africa that I heard Malidoma Somé speak about before he passed. And the Dagra have this vision of the earth. They see the earth as a planet that's energetic, that has certain gateways, energetic doorways or pathways to other realities, to other realms. And in their philosophy, their way of seeing things, only people that we in the West would call LGBTQ were energetically able to fulfill these roles of being guardians, the gatekeepers to these other realms and realities. So I'm going to stop here because I know we all have limited time, but I think it's really important for our movement, for our individual self-acceptance and self-love to reclaim these roles and to find ways of expressing it that are a match for who we are. Because it is just as ludicrous to try to reject our sexuality, like many of us have who couldn't deal with it, as it is to reject our spirituality. To me, we're all spiritual beings who happen to be having a physical experience for one time or many times, depending on your system of belief. And at that level, it doesn't matter, really, how we express our love, how we express our passion is secondary. It's almost incidental to who we really are, to the magnificent beings that we all are, no matter how we express that. But in terms of finding wholeness, it's necessary that we reclaim these roles and find ways of expressing it that are at a match for who we are. And in so doing, we will not only find completion and sense of wholeness, but that will ripple out and make a difference in the world. Because these are roles that we have played all over the world. And Malidoma Somé said that one of the reasons that the world is in the shape that it's in is because the gatekeepers have been fired from their jobs. So I think it's high time that we reclaim these roles. And I'll pause here.
Christian, I love everything you just shared. What an eloquent speaker you are. Also, what a wonderful reminder of the wonderful roles that your community has played. And a huge yes. And on a personal level, for 15 years, I ran an educational, a company that produced educational media for young people, mostly educational television. And my lead head writer, who's a brilliant writer, who's our best writer, was a wonderful gay Cuban man named Raul Mancada. And I loved Raul very, very much. And so you remind me of Raul. So to his great spirit that's up in the sky now. And thank you for that reminder. And you're absolutely right. Those roles are the roles that change society, that change lives, that matter. And I just really appreciate your eloquent presentation of that. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, God. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. And thank you so much for having us and for having the conversation.
Yeah. And thank you for reminding me of the spirit of my friend Raul. We are going to go to beloved brother Omar Shar. We are at the mid-show point approximately in our evening. And so, brother Omar Shar, what an evening so far.
Holy smoke, it really is. I've got chills running up and down my spine, and what is happening is I'm being brought right into my center by the truth that is being spoken here. And I loved it when Erica was saying at the beginning about how everything in universality is, you could say that it's neither male nor female. It's a blend of both. I mean, you have to go further up and up and up in the dimensions to get the true understanding of that. But everything that's been spoken of tonight is so liberating and so truthful. So thank you. And this song that I'm going to sing is called "What More Can I Be Than What I Am?" And so there we go. I was actually going to play something a little bit more gay. However, I didn't want YouTube or Facebook to cut us off from me doing a cover song. When I was 16 in England, you can drink at 18, you can have sex at 16, you can drive at 17, and I was a very, very shy, blonde-headed boy, but I used to go at 16 into gay clubs. And because I was welcomed and I was amongst all this high vibe energy, and they used to let me in even though they could have been busted because I wasn't 18, but I felt so welcomed, and I was never propositioned. I was just welcomed, and I shook my booty at 16 in gay clubs in England. So anyway, that's my chat at the moment. So blah blah blah. What more can I be than what I am? Though it's taken some time to clear these clouds from my eyes, so open your heart and dance along. I'm thinking it's time to stop that same old song. I've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her in my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her in my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. So don't try to hold me to what I was. I've traveled through time to see this day arise. The love that I am is here for you. So open the door and let the sun shine in. I've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da. Ba-da-da-da. So open your heart and dance along. I'm thinking it's time to stop that same old song. I've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her with my dreaming.
right?
Unmute? Absolutely. And it's such a good message. I mean, it's a great melody, but the message is so important for us all.
It's the melodies, the carrier wave. So thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Omar Shah. And Omar Shah will close this out one more time tonight. So there was a question in the audience about our dear friend Sylvia. And I'm happy to report that Sylvia is slowly making her way back into our reality. I actually received a nice phone message from her today, and she's beginning to text and connect a little bit with people. And she actually asked for the link for tonight's show, and I sent it to her, but then she texted and said she didn't think she was quite up for it yet. But she's making progress. So let's just take a moment and send love and light to our beloved Sylvia. Thank you, everybody. And I want to thank you again for all of your prayers that you sent my way when I was under the weather on Saturday. As you can see, I am feeling better. I'm still pretty tired. You can see the things on my eyes, but I'm feeling better. All right. I am really looking forward to hearing what, we know Reverend Becky in many, many ways, and she provides a lot. She's just one of those people who's a tireless worker. A lot of us know her through all that she does for Unity Earth, but she's also a minister, and she's also a mother. I forget, but I know it's a remarkable number of children that she takes care of or has taken care of and given birth to. Plus all of the big children that she takes care of. But she also, when she speaks and gives a talk or a sharing, it's brilliant. I'm very blessed to be part of her Patreon program, and I'll hopefully find the link and send it to everybody after she speaks, because I invite you all to join her speak, because when she speaks, what she has to share is very, very, very wise and valuable, very similar to what we just experienced with Christian and Andre. So with no further ado, I'm turning it over to Reverend Becky Suzik.
Blessings. Thank you so much, Scott. Wow. I've gone into gallery view so I can see each of you and imagine those of you who are watching and joining us on the live stream, and just send so much love to the diversity of us. I'm so grateful. And for this moment with you all, I want to honor the spectrum of the diversity of us: the lesbian, the gay, the bisexual, the transgender, the twin flames, the spectrum of us, the cisgendered, the straight. We are all here together. We are all having a human experience. And I'm so grateful for each of your spiritual courage, for all of us here, that we breathe each moment that we are here is a living testament to the fact that we are living spiritual courage. And we want to create a space for people to shine in their own authenticity and to be the love that they feel themselves to be, without question, query, denial, without religious trauma, without political trauma. There's so many traumas that are being added to something that should be as simple as what I've seen in the chat: love is love is love is love. And we can let go of that. And for those of us who feel the privilege, and myself, my pronouns are she, her. I identify as a cisgendered woman, and I'm in a loving relationship with a man. And I feel the privilege of that in my life. And I also know that there is a fluidity that we humans have in our creative possibility, that in years, even next week, who knows where I could be placing my love. I mean, I'm in a devoted, committed relationship, but I'm open to what Spirit is teaching me about love. And I wanted to just take this moment to speak a little bit about allyship for those of us who may feel the weight of and the responsibility of what allyship can look like, and the spiritual courage. Recently, I heard Rianne Eisler speak about spiritual courage on a podcast that I recommend called What Could Possibly Go Right? And Riane Eisler, I'm going to read my notes here. Riane Eisler, for those of you who may not know who she is, she wrote the 1987 classic, The Chalice and the Blade. And she presented really interesting and controversial and advanced, I believe, ideas about gender identity, gender role, and also the domination versus partnership cultures. And when I look at all of the complexities that seem to be happening, all of these things that are coming up in our face, it's like about domination instead of partnership. And when we open into spiritual courage and we look at partnership opportunities of love and looking beyond the labels, honoring the labels that bring us affirmation, and also loving people beyond those, that is, I believe, a triumphant opportunity for us to express love for humanity. So what she shared was a story of spiritual courage that piqued my curiosity about what spiritual courage is and what spiritual courage might not be. And so I wanted to share her story with you, and then just a couple of ideas about what allyship might look like to us. As a child, Riane and her family fled Nazi-occupied Austria to escape the persecution of the Jews. And they eventually emigrated to Cuba and later to the United States, where she continued her education and her career. Her early experience with totalitarianism and violence deeply shaped her lifelong commitment to peace, justice, and systemic change. Within the podcast, she talked about the night, Crystal Night, when the Nazis broke in and they smashed so much glass and took people from their homes and killed people. And she said on this podcast, they dragged my father off and I witnessed cruelty, destructiveness, violence. But I also witnessed something else that had an enormous impact on me, she said. And that is what I call today spiritual courage. My mother exhibited that. Spiritual courage is the courage not to slay the dragon or kill the enemy you know, all the ways that we've been taught about courage. Spiritual courage is the courage to stand up against injustice out of love. And that evening, her mother recognized one of the Nazis as somebody who their family had employed and helped in the family business. And her mother stood up to this young man and said, "How dare you take this man who was so kind to you? I want him back." And her protesting actually led to the return of her husband and also their safe transit out of where they were and to safety. Now, she could have been killed, as many, unfortunately, as we know, many Jewish people were killed that night on Crystal Night. But by a miracle, she wasn't killed. And by a miracle, she actually obtained her father's safety. And so I wanted to share that story as we are called in allyship. For some of us, we're learning new things tonight, words that we've not heard before, and I wish we had more time to go into all of the abbreviations more fully to help educate us further. And I encourage us, that is a great act of allyship, is to do some homework on what do all of these abbreviations that we keep saying, LGBTQIA2+ mean. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can learn about gender and about sexuality to honor the spectrum of love and also the spectrum of gender understanding. So I want to share one other thing, and this is from an article that I read from Harvard Business Review that did some research with LGBTQ people who identify in that way. And they identified 3 components of being a strong ally. And one is that allies make people safe and feel supported. And so as an ally, we can do things, we can listen to people. Second thing is to take action, to advocate for the group and to raise awareness and to defend the group. And also the third is to have humility and be open to being corrected. So I'll give an example. I like to ask people when I first get to know people if they have a gender identity preference that maybe I'm making an assumption about. So I've been corrected before where I've made an assumption. And so I've apologized when I call people the wrong pronouns. Sometimes in Zoom, we can put our pronouns up if you have that feature, and it can allow us to express who we are, and then to respect when people use the gender pronouns, that we can respect how people wish to be referred to. And so you can ask people, that's a loving act right there. And it matters because words matter to people. And so I'm also going to say, in this time right now, at the beginning of this administration, and the beginning of the year, there was a proclamation that was announced that renounced anything other than male and female identity, which is extremely troubling because I know so many people who live outside of those understandings. And to that, I just want to say that that is how powerful our transgender relatives, our transgender friends are. It's because they are, to me, I have learned so much about the diversity of love and the fact that people are trying to renounce that you exist. I see you, I feel you, I honor you, I will march beside you, I will do anything that I can to affirm you and your love and how you understand yourself to be. And just know that you are not alone. And I'm so grateful to Reverend Andre for what you were sharing about the joys of being transgender, and uplift that and honor that. And thank you so much for this opportunity to share. And let your spiritual courage roar, dear friends. Really, this is the time. It's not a time to be quiet. It's a time to listen and to use what we hear and learn and put it into action for love. So thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you. And, you know, Reverend Becky is pure inspiration. And I want to encourage all of you to give yourself a gift. And that is to go to her website, which is joyfuel.org. We all need more joy in our life. And Becky gives us the fuel for that joy. So her name of joyfuel.org is perfect. And then when you go to the website, you know, scroll around, take a look at what she's doing, but then come down and become a patron. I'm clicking it. There we go. And that's where you can join her Patreon page. And of course, you know, we use Patreon to support Kristen Hoffman and many, many, many of our artists and presenters that you see on the show. And you can come in for as low as $6 a month. And she creates these really lovely videos and wonderful things. So please, please, please support her and get more joy fueled into your life, because it's a blessing.
Thank you so much, Scott. And also, people can join for free. I'm sharing. I'm using it as a listserv too, and so I don't. If you know me, I work in gift economy, and so I don't bind my work to people who monetarily gift to me only. Although I'm very appreciative with all these budget cuts that are happening, I'm so grateful. But thank you so much for the beauty of this program, and I'd love to come back at the end and help us extinguish our candles towards the end if we have time. So much love.
Still, if you can see it.
Yeah, I have my rainbow one too.
Thank you, Becky. Yeah, we'll see you in a little bit. I'm actually really happy to introduce the next friend. A lot of you have danced with her. Maybe you've danced with her online, but she is a wonderful member of our community. And I am, of course, talking about Heather Elizabeth, also known as Shine. And how many of you, if you've danced with her during one of Summer Joy's many dance events, pop it in the chat box, because I know there's a lot of us here that have done that. So welcome, Heather. So good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Scott, and all of you amazing, beloved community here in this space, in this now moment, and everyone who will be tapping in at the perfect divine moment. My heart is so full right now. I have never been prouder to be a part of the queer community than I am. So I'm probably going to be very tearful, which is the way that my heart is expressing herself.
Your tears are very
Yeah.
welcome.
Gosh, I often use the term weaving because I feel we are all weavers and creators, creatrixes. So what I feel guided to share is a weaving with what has already been shared, because there's such deep wisdom here. And what I feel guided to weave with is liberation and radical joy. So liberation, I want to share a little bit about my own liberation, which is completely wrapped up in my queerness. And then I'm going to speak a little bit to the liberation of all beings that I do feel is at the helm of what we're experiencing in this now moment. I have a beloved teacher, actually, his image is in the video, Scott, that you shared at the beginning, Andrew Harvey, a gay man who coined the term sacred activist. And he talks a lot about the dark night of the soul and the collective dark night of the soul that we are all traversing in this now moment. And so I actually became liberated. I would say the first layer of my liberation came through my own dark night of the soul, which happened when I was around 30, my early 30s. And what I was liberating or beginning to really consciously liberate myself from is the poison of colonization.
Mm.
And I know that that term has been shared already multiple times this evening, because it is something that, you know, we have all been poisoned by. Some of us in much more harmful ways than others. Yet no one has not been touched by the poison of colonization. And so for me, as a cisgendered, white-bodied woman growing up in the South, born and raised in Texas, a huge way that colonization poisoned my relationship to myself was a repression of my queerness. I always knew that I was attracted and oriented to women, yet I was also holding this narrative that because I'm a woman, I need to like men, and I need to look a certain way, and I need to want to be married and have kids and the white picket fence and the whole 9 yards. And I think we all have this deep desire to be loved and to be accepted. And so I bought into that narrative and I played the game. And slowly but surely, I was literally, my soul was shriveling up because I was not living authentically. I was not being true to myself. I got to a point in my life I didn't even know who I was anymore. And I spent my 20s in a what we might name as an extremely codependent relationship where I completely lost my sense of self and what I wanted and how I really was called to express the truth of who I am. And so this dark night of the soul was the beginning of the unraveling of all of that, when I was really ready to face this dark, dark, colonized poison that was eating me up. And it was, as dark nights of the soul are, it was an excruciating time. It was a time where I was so scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was having to make some really, really difficult decisions that terrified me. Yet it also was opening up an element of a spiritual awakening that was absolutely miraculous. Something I learned in that time was a miracle is a change in perception. And I was having a change in how I related to myself and how I wanted to create my life. And so it was miraculous. And from that point, I began really opening up to my queerness and my authentic expression, who I really am. And I would say, like, my life went from a black and white picture to the vibrancy that you see in my background. It was like full spectrum color, magic, creativity, a kind of love and radical joy and beloved community that I didn't even know was possible until that moment. And I fell madly in love with my best friend, and we are still in partnership now. It's over 17 years later. And I really, really began, and I know it'll be a lifelong journey of what it feels to be liberated from the illusion of separation, that we are separate from Creator, that we are separate from one another, liberated from these narrow-minded constructs that we're all supposed to fit in these little tiny boxes that we call binary, and that liberated from the lie that one human is more valuable than another. And so I've been on this journey that's been deeply, deeply spiritual since that time. And so, as excruciating as this moment in our collective dark night of the soul is, and it is excruciating, if you're willing to open your heart is being broken wide open right now. I know without a doubt that the pushback that we're feeling and that we're seeing by certain members of our human family is a fear of their own process of having to liberate themselves from the poison of colonization. And so, in the spirit of sacred activism, with love and compassion, it is so important for all of us to stand up and speak out for love and for equality and for inclusivity for all of our human family, because it's going to take all of us to do that and be that in order for us to move through this dark night to feel the liberation that is possible for all of us. So I know there's been some really beautiful ideas shared this evening already about how to do that. And it doesn't have to look a certain way. We all have our own way and our own calling to be sacred activists, yet we've got to heed the call. Like, it is dire circumstances right now. And Scott, I really, really honor you and Almashar and this community for your courage, as Becky's talking about, spiritual courage, your courage to hold this sacred space and have these voices heard tonight. It's so important. And my prayer is that all of our queer relatives who are feeling so terrified right now, so terrified, that they, even if they never see this, that they feel the love and the support that's here. And that we are going to get through this, but we need everybody. we need all hearts on deck. We really do. So, one more thing, because I can't forget, Scott, you shared the dancing. The dancing is part of the radical joy. And if you've ever gone to a pride event or a drag show or anywhere where our queer relatives are shining, you know what radical joy is.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal, and it is a medicine that the LGBTQ plus community just radiates. And I actually also think that that scares people too. It
Yeah.
scares people, that joy scares them, and they don't know how to access that in themselves. And so there's that pushback and the dehumanization that's going on. So let's open ourselves up to the power of radical joy. And if you need some teachers, look to your queer community, because
It's true.
they are it. And I love you all so much. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
Heather,
Thank you.
thank you. What a beautiful presentation. I'll try and find it and put it in the chat box. I love Andrew Harvey, love him. And of course, he's been on Global Peace Tribe shows a few times, and God bless him. He did a 4-hour program with us where he just shared, Andrew flowing with amazing stories about the Dalai Lama, and then it was a total gift. So I'll try, and before the show is out, I'll try and find the links. It's on our YouTube channel. And watching Andrew in his glory is wonderful. And I'm going to call on Piper Dellums in a moment. So Piper, be prepared, because I'd love to hear from you. I'm also we're going to open up to questions. So I'm going to bring all of our different panelists on board. Yeah, Wild Monk of Mystic Monastery, Jerry Anderson, is with us. And Jerry just spent time with Andrew. Jerry, I put the camera on you. Is there anything you'd like to say about tonight or about your time with Andrew, who is such a great spiritual leader for many of us?
Yes, and his focus his whole life on mystics is the one thing that really drew me to him. And yes, if you cannot find the link for the 2 hours and then another 2 hours he did with just 33 of us from the Global Peace Tribe, I'll find it and set it up. And yes, I'll bare my soul a little bit. You guys have saw my lover a couple of times on the show, and I keep telling him to tone it down. But he's been there a couple of times. So yes, I appreciate the show tonight and the love that everybody has brought to the table. As I say, you love whoever you're with, and that doesn't matter what kind of genitals they have.
No, thank you. We love you so much, Jerry. And I'm happy when I see you with your lover. It's like, yeah, Jerry's getting loved up, and he deserves that. So if people have thoughts, comments, or questions, please put them in the chat box now. And I'm going to just share a little bit about a part of my history. I've mentioned it a couple times on the show, but way back in 1988, I was on vacation in Maui, and I woke up one morning and I was completely filled with Holy Spirit. And I went to my typewriter. This is 1988, so I didn't have a computer back then. I had a typewriter. And I spent the day writing a story called Men in Love. And it was a complete channeled experience. I definitely have gay friends, and back in 1988, it was a really hard time. They weren't even calling it AIDS; they were calling it the gay cancer. And I had a lot of friends who were very impacted by it. So I was in that awareness, and spirit just flowed through me, and I wrote this story. And I started it at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I remember I finished it at about 7 o'clock at night. Well, the spirit wanted that movie made, and in 6 months, I was able to raise over $1 million to make it, and did. And so I wrote and produced a very gay-themed film called Men in Love, and it was a narrative. It was not a documentary, it was a narrative. And we made it, and it was beautiful. And then when it came time to market it, the marketing company, it was a small independent company. No major company would take us on. But they decided the marketing campaign was, why did a straight man, me, make a gay movie? And so I traveled city by city with the movie. I went to 40 cities, 8 different countries, mostly Europe. We shared it at the Berlin Film Festival right after the Berlin Wall fell, which was an amazing time to be there. And it was a big part of my life. And it really was 3 years of my life, because it was the writing, it was the easy part. And if you take a look at what I wrote in the final film, it's about 90%. I mean, we made a few adjustments. I did bring in another man to direct it, a gay man, Mark Eustace. And we filmed it partially in San Francisco and partially in Maui. And it was a very beautiful movie, and I traveled with it. That was my life for 20 years. And it really taught me a lot about the gay culture. And one of the things that most impressed me was how the lesbian culture at that time was really supporting the gay culture, no matter what city I went to. Last story I'll tell about it is I probably saw the film 100 times, because I'd go to a theater and I'd get up and I'd speak and would show the film, and I'd take questions and answers afterwards. And a lot of mothers of gay men came to the movie. Obviously, the majority of our audience were gay men, but a lot of mothers came who wanted to understand their sons. They wanted to understand what was happening. And that was something I hadn't even thought about when I was making this movie. It was a very, very beautiful experience. So even though in this lifetime I'm not gay, so many men that I love are, and so many men that I love have passed. So tonight brings back a lot of those memories. And that's why I really appreciate Andrea bringing up the spiritual side of it. I appreciate Erica and her history. I love Christians presenting the beautiful roles that the community has provided us. And Becky, your inspiration. So everybody, thank you. Heather, your joyfulness and all about dance, yes. So thank you to everybody. And I'm going to bring our presenters up now and give each of them a chance for kind of a final word, and also to answer any questions or significant comments that come up in the chat box. So I'm looking, where's Erica? Here's Andre. And thank you. I know some of you are East Coasters, where it's getting late. Oh, and I had promised to bring up Piper Dellums. There she is. So we're going to go to Piper first, actually, because Piper, first of all, I love you.
I love you.
It was nice to get a hug from you in Santa Barbara.
Oh my God, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. I really had to pop on here to see my sister, Erica Kay. This has been extraordinarily beautiful. So many things came to the forefront of my spirit and my soul, listening to Shine and Christian and Lucas, and of course, Erica and the Reverend Becky. It was gorgeous. I'm very much connected with the knowledge of the two spirit being the absolute imprint of the God consciousness in the earth, and the recognition. And thank you for bringing this up, Shine, that colonization and forced Christianity was the thing that forced indigenous peoples from all over the globe outside of the knowledge and the awareness that having two spirit was the representation of something very sacred, something very holy. Because even in Christian scripture, it says God made man in his image, male and female made he him. So there is already a higher consciousness awareness that the God imprint is that perfect balance. And indigenous cultures have always known and revered that until it was beaten out of the culture through Christian schools, etc. But there's also another awakening that's always been a part of my spirit. And I thank Christian for talking about the political connection in the Bay Area. As most of the awakening world family knows, my father was the U.S. Congressman representing Berkeley at that time. from 1970 to 1999, actually to 2004. But in that awakening, our entire growing up was with Cesar Chavez and Gloria Steinem and Harvey Milk and Angela Davis. These were the people that were in and out of our homes. And one of the things that I recall is I recall that my father made it very clear to me that it was colonization and Christianity that even added the word sexual to our identity as a global being. And the actual word of our imprint coming from Creator is love. So we are homogenous love and we are bi love, ability to love both, and we are transcendental love and transcendent love. And so the way that I've always authorized the trans community is a transcendent love. And the only difference is that we have a societal imprint that disqualifies our inner voice or the inner voice of the entire community in that knowingness. So my trans friends, my LGBTQ friends, I've always known were these perfect imprints of the ability to love unconditionally and wholly. So perhaps if we remove that which is always and only connected to the flesh with sexuality and replace it with love, there will be a different and unique honor of this perfect, beautiful imprint of God consciousness in the earth. So I see you and I love you, and I understand these stories coming as an African American and an Indigenous person with Jewish children. I understand every single cry and every single fear. However, as Christian said, someone has to be the mirror to a society to bear witness to itself. This is the only way that we're going to ascend. And our souls have made a choice and a decision to be the ones to enter in during this time, to be that consciousness, despite what happens to the physical body. There is only love, only love. So I thank you for expressing that today. And we wipe away that spirit of fear because it doesn't belong. God doesn't recognize it. And that is one of the great deceptions and lies in the earth. So
Thank you.
stand in your truth. Love you. I love you, Scott. God bless all of you for this beauty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.
Well, I've brought up our other presenters. I'm going to leave you up, Piper, because you are one of our presenters as well. And we have a question from Dorina down in Ecuador. She asks, thank you, everyone. Question to all of you beautiful souls. What are you most grateful and or hopeful about in these challenging times? And that's a good question. So not everyone has to answer it, but I'd love to hear from some of you at least. What are you most grateful or hopeful about in these challenging times?
Well, since I'm kind of here, I'm going to jump in on that. First and foremost, I am so grateful for everyone who showed up tonight. I am so grateful for this incredible life that I have. I don't know who brought up Harvard University. Was it you, Heather?
Becky.
Becky did.
Becky, thank you. I had the great privilege to work with Harvard because for many years I had the Foundation for International Justice, where we advocated around the world. And for many of you, which I haven't spoken about, I studied constitutional law. I worked with homeless LGBT youth for years. I served on the Massachusetts Commission on Homelessness, on the Regional Commission. And shelters don't work. And when I heard that Harvard was going to build a shelter for LGBT youth, I reached out to him. Why do shelters not work for youth? Number one, you've been rejected. Everything you own, you're carrying with you. What do you do with it to continue your education? They're stuck. So I contacted Harvard and I gave them my input because I'm also the founder of Promise Place School for unaccompanied homeless LGBT youth in Massachusetts. And they listened to what I had to say. They built a shelter, but they built a shelter so that the LGBT youth that were homeless could continue their educations and leave their belongings at the shelter. They didn't have to check out in the morning and come back and check in at night. It became a stopover so that they could continue and finish their educations. I was one of those homeless youth myself, and I understood what worked and didn't work. And I am so grateful to know that we have so many allies. And I am not afraid of this administration, nor will I ever be afraid of them. There is something that has rolled up within inside of me to say, I don't have anything left to lose. I've already given my life. So I'm not afraid to speak out. And I have the ability to do that. And I have the power to do that. Because there is a protection around me that has been with me my entire life. And that's why I'm still alive today, to be here to do it. So I'll continue to do that. And those are the things that I am most grateful for.
Beautiful. Thank you, Erica, and thank you very much for bringing us all together. And I do want to direct people to your website. Again, it's called amostperfectlove.org. And I'm accepting your cookies, Erica. Definitely, please take a look at her website and what she's doing, empowering lives through love and support. Donate now. And so take a look. There's all sorts of wonderful things here. Again, it's amostperfectlove.org. And Erica, you have led an amazing lifetime, 60 years or more of service to humanity. And I'm hoping to watch what you do over the next 60 years. So thank you so much. I found a little gem. And I'm really glad that I found it in my archives. This is on previous shows we've done with this theme. We've had Nina Gray on, and this is a lovely video that I just kind of am inspired to share. It's very short, and it's called Love is Love. And I think you're all going to enjoy it very much. If it plays. Oh, come on. Oh, you know what? I pulled it up, but I may need to download it more properly into my computer. So we'll see if Reverend Becky would love to hear what Lucas and Reverend Andrew are grateful and hopeful for. So yes, that's a good choice. Lucas?
Well, I have to say I'm grateful. I'm grateful to live in a city like Olympia, where, like I said, I mean, I moved out here, 22 years ago, never having seen the place, knowing very little about it, and I was, you know, very pleasantly surprised to find friends, resources, everything I needed when it became plain that I really needed to start my transition. I continue to be grateful for the friends I found here, and especially the great community of allies um, that I've met, not just through PFLAG, but through you know every 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 place I go in Olympia. Um, they say it's almost unheard of in history for any oppressed group of people to free themselves from oppression without the help of people outside that group. You know, I've had the privilege to work with people who were not members of the LGBTQ community, but who, you know, maybe had friends or family or, you know, children or coworkers or other loved ones who were, um, you know, and they make up such a huge part of my chosen family. You know, that I at this point probably could not manage without them. So, you know, big shout out to you know, my friends on the P-Flag board and um, you know, all the great folks in Olympia who've stepped up and you know are right now mobilizing to make Olympia a safe place for LGBTQ folks, you know, who need a refuge.
Great. Thank you very much, Lucas. Thank you. And Reverend Andre, thank you for staying up late and still being with us.
Thank you. Yeah, 11 o'clock's not my shiniest hour, but I'm still with you. There's a lot of things that I am grateful for and hopeful for at this time. And one of the things I'll point to is the creativity and resilience of the queer community. We've been through a lot, and we're continuing to go through a lot, and we've gotten through a lot. And so I find a lot of hope in that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, while you were all talking, I was able to properly download what I want to share with everybody. And this is from Nina Gray, who it's about time for us to have her on the show again. I'll let her know that we played this, but this is a beautiful video that she made, which I think sums up a lot of what you all believe and are living in your lives. So here is Love with our friend Nina Gray.
Is there a right way? Or can we get it wrong? When we love someone, when we're loving someone, if it were up to Jesus, think he'd open up his arms to really love someone, to really love everyone. Love is what they say, ain't that what matters in the end anyway? Different colors and different lives, it's all the same on the inside. Love is what they say, ain't that what matters in the end anyway? Different colors, different lives, it's all the same on the inside. Oh, oh, oh. She spent a long time thinking there was something wrong, journaling at midnight, feeling so alone. He spent a lifetime playing out a role, denying attraction to the man he loved the most. Love is what they say, ain't that what matters in the end anyway? Different colors and different lives, it's all the same on the inside. Love is what they say, ain't that what matters in the end anyway? Different colors and different lives, it's all the same on the inside. Oh, love is 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 love.
Love is love in our awakening world. Isn't that just spectacular? You know, about halfway through the show, I remembered, oh my God, yes, that we got to play that video tonight. So it looks like you all enjoyed it very much. Well, we are well past 8 o'clock, well past some of your bedtimes. And so I want to thank all of you for being here. Erica, a lifetime of incredible service, and each of you for all that you're doing, your eloquence, your sharing, your vulnerability, and just the insights. I think we've all grown and evolved a little bit, and this has been a really lovely Awakening World show. And I invite, please, everyone, take a show like tonight and send it out. Send it to friends. You know, send it to, especially if you've got, you know, maybe more conservative friends or older parents that have a lot of who maybe are less knowledgeable. This would be a wonderful show to share with people, to just help them meet real LGBTQ. And now I need to learn what 1A, 1, 2, that whole thing is. So I'm going to invite you, Becky, to come back. I just got the one thing down, and now you've added all these new numbers and letters, for heaven's sakes. So I'm going to invite you back. Your penance is you got to come back into the awakening world and explain it to us, okay?
I would absolutely love to do that. I'm learning. And how I learn is by asking my LGBTQ plus 2IA friends what everything means, you know? And you know what I'm so grateful for is the possibility that our human hearts can grow in love and that we can change our minds, we can open our minds. And we don't have to hold on to old stories and old narratives, that we can embrace the narrative of love. And I think that's what, you know, is rising as we honor our LGBTQ plus IA, our community, is I learned so much from you about love and the diversity of that. And that is possible, and it's growing, and we're not alone. And please, my email in chat, if I can ever be a support, a listening ear, spiritual care, I'm here, just an email away. And so, yeah. And I would love to do that, Scott, please.
I'll send you a note and we'll set a date.
May I jump in just for a moment to explain the I?
Sure.
When that executive order was signed declaring that there are only 2 genders recognized in the United States, it had a great impact not only on the trans community, the intersex community. There are 1.6 million intersex people in the United States. I am also one of them. I am a human chimera. I contain 2 distinct sets of DNA, the male and the female. This all came out during genetic testing when I was being diagnosed for lupus. So let's remember and hold up our intersex members as well. I cannot even begin to imagine what that statement alone did to them. I know how I felt.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Erica. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We are going to close the show the way that we always do, which is with our beloved house musical artist, Oma Shar. I do want to make one quick announcement, and that is Saturday night. The show will be coming live from the New Living Expo, and I'll be there, good Lord willing. And a reminder for our Northern California friends, Hyperdellums, come on down. It's in San Rafael, and I'll be there actually Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, but of course our show will be on Saturday night. And we'll have lots of wonderful people there. And a lot of the people you've seen recently on the show, Rhea Mana, I arranged for her actually to be one of the people playing music there. Hannah, who's been on the show a couple times recently, is playing music there. And then, of course, so many of our favorite speakers. You saw many of them. on our new Living Expo preview show, Daniel Brinkley and John Gray and all of our friends. So if you can, come live. Otherwise, our next show this Saturday night will be me live at the expo with people, hopefully like Piper, sitting next to me and sharing, similar to what we did the other day from the Evolutionary Leaders Retreat. So hope to see you in person, those of you that are in Northern California. Otherwise, we'll see you online. And here is
Scott, before you go there, how do we get a copy of the woman who just sang the beautiful love song? Is there a way to catch that?
I have it from her sending it to me. I tried to find it on YouTube and it's not on YouTube. But what I will do is I will post it up on our Global Peace Tribe YouTube channel tonight. So if you go to YouTube, go to Global Peace Tribe, and go there tomorrow morning to be safe, and they'll be there waiting.
Thank you.
All right.
And Becky would like to blow out the candles.
Oh, that's right. We need to blow out our Oh, it's so sad to blow them out, though.
Well, we're going to presents that you see on my screen around Omashar and I. We have the Progress flag, which is this beautiful flag that celebrates the diversity of love in all its different colors and identities, and more than what even this flag represents. And so I will just challenge us all, as so many different months have been renounced that we don't celebrate, that we, each of us, have a great opportunity this June to celebrate Pride Month as allies, to post, learn information, learn about the Progress flag and share it on your social media and become a vocal ally for people's learning about the diversity of love. And so we'll raise our candles here. I'm going to go into gallery view so I can see you all. I'm just seeing you, Scott. So, and we have our candles. And while we extinguish this light, we do not extinguish the light of love and the light of our spiritual courage that I see is rising even stronger. This incredible opportunity and for love to really, truly, deeply shine. And so we honor all of those who are teaching us about the diversity of love, and we honor them for the patience that they share with people like me who want to learn and grow my own understanding. And we honor the courage that they embody living as they are, that we can learn that as well. And we just give so much gratitude. So each of us blow out our candles and make a wish for unity, for love, for the diversity of us, and let our lives be a true prayer for love. Blessed be. Aho, Ashe, Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Reverend Becky. Love you.
Love you.
When you feel like giving up, when you feel like letting go, living in this ever-changing world, when it seems that all is lost and you don't know where to turn, the future seems so very far away. So just know there really is a plan. The sun will always shine, and with your hand in mine, all heaviness fades away. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. Da 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 da. that you're alone and the fears knock at your door, remember I am just a breath away. You are my brightest star, you've just forgotten who you are. Remember there is nothing in the way, but just know there really is a plan. The sun will always shine, and with your hand in mine, all heaviness fades away. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. So when you feel like giving up, and when you feel like letting go, remember I am just a breath away. And just know there really is a plan. The sun will always shine, and with your hand in mine, all heaviness fades away. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day. The love in our hearts will melt the darkest day.
Thank you, Omashar. Thank you, Erica K. Webster, Piper Dellums, all of you, everybody, all of our guests, all of our people on camera, all of you not on camera, all of you watching the recording, all of you on Facebook and YouTube, dear everybody. And may we bring more light and love into our world. And we just do that by smiling more, being kind to people, thinking before we speak. Little things like that make a difference. I love this show, and I really love what took place tonight. It touched my heart deeply.
Thank you, Scott.
My pleasure. Hope to see you all on Saturday night. And God's blessings, everybody. Get a good night's rest, and let love lead the way, just like Omashar's song. Good night.
Love will always win.
Absolutely.